Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, and we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And I have with me the creative team behind Steam Patriots, Scott Wakefield and Rory Boyle. So welcome to the show.
Hey, Andrew. Thank you.
You know, I am very excited. I obviously read your book. It's dealing with the Revolutionary War, American history, alternative history, and I kind of tipped my hat off what we're going to be talking about. And obviously, I know this is Silverline's latest Kickstarter, and Roland does a great job.
Yeah.
But before we really get too deep into Steam Patriots, what is the basic premise of this book for people who are hearing about it for the first time or kind of have seen it on Kickstarter and all that fun stuff?
Shall I?
No, please.
All right. We say Steam Patriots is where steampunk meets the American Revolution. We created a steampunk origin story at the end of the 1700s, and we had Ben Franklin tweak steam technology. There you go, Rory. Well done.
There you go. I forgot I had that.
Ben Franklin tweak steam technology, and it's all still very raw. We have Franklin boilers and boiler carriages, and we have a fictional protagonist named Felix Ward. And he's a smarty pants, and he has a memory to remember details. And so he gets pulled into the war as the British invade in August of 1776. They invade Long Island, and he has to question some of his allegiances, and he has to sneak around, and he gets teamed up with Ben Franklin at the beginning of the war. And that is issue 1. Issue 2 goes on from there. They all follow chronologically. And we've got action. We've got some real history in there. And, of course, some fantastical stuff with the steampunk, the steam engines, and steam technology. So that's the opener. And we would love for our world to keep going. That's our hope, our dreams for the Steam Patriots world to just keep expanding. That might have been a longer answer than you wanted, but that's Steam Patriots.
So obviously, I like alternative history. I appreciate it. There's been a bunch of stuff that I've read. I've read Uber, which I think is an awesome book. And then there's a bunch of other books that are also very much alternative history. Mm-hmm. And so where did this idea come from? Because there's been a few books that have touched upon the Revolutionary War, but I don't think there's been anything massive steampunk oriented. And look, I'm not a steampunk expert by any stretch of the imagination, so I could be completely misinterpreted. There might be a whole genre.
That you know what? And I don't think Rory and I are not actually like deep in the steampunk world, because there are people that are.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, make your own outfits. Go to the.
I am not one of those.
I've specifically kind of stayed away from it a little because I don't want to steal anything. I want our ideas to not be affected by the steampunk world. And so Rory, if you want to talk about how we came up with this idea.
Yeah.
Because I'll talk all night.
Scott and I were stationed together in Buffalo, New York, and he got orders to catch a can. Him and his family were going to live on a boat. So we picked up his boat in Seattle. We sailed it 6 days up the Inside Passage to catch a can.
Awesome.
Somewhere along this voyage, our brains just melded. We kind of became hive mind.
Yeah.
We became Borg for a second.
Yep.
And just had this astonishing, light bulbs just go off. American Revolution could be steampunk. It's always Victorian England. Why can't we make this American? Give it steampunk, an origin story. And who better than Ben Franklin to usher in this steampunk world? And it was just so perfect of an idea. No, this has to have been done before. No, it hasn't been done before. So it flowed out, and Scott picked up with it for school. Yeah.
Yeah, we originally thought we'd write a novel, and we actually still might. We'd love to expand our world with a deeper book. I ended up writing about a 44,000 word novel during a National Novel Writing Month, the NaNoWriMo. And I just, wrote this book. Didn't get the 50,000 word. I'm sorry. But we got it done. And so Rory and I, we 85% of it's been thrown out. But we got this story done. And it sat on a shelf for a while. We had a publisher interested, and that didn't pan out.
couple publishers,
so-
a couple artists.
Yeah, a couple art, people making promo art and some great images for Felix and his dad and boiler carriages. And it wasn't until I finished my degree at Full Sail, and Roland Mann with Silverline was one of my instructors, and he loved the idea of when we presented it as a graphic novel, a comic book. Rory and I said it's just perfect. Like, I wish we had thought of it.
Yeah, it's
10 years ago.
Visual genre. We'd be doing such a huge disservice. I mean, I can't imagine steampunk books that don't have the visual
images.
aspect.
Yeah,
And they're out there and they sell fairly well. But
Yeah.
what a disservice.
but
So let's actually talk about that, because obviously, I mean, this started off, as you stated, as a novel, and then it's become a comic, a graphic novel, and that whole thing. I mean, either one is, I guess, synonymous at this point with each other.
Yeah.
And what was that like to make that transition? Because it is a whole different medium. And now you get to have pictures with words, and you actually get to show action, and you get a bunch of other tools to play with in, I guess, the toolbox, for lack of a better word, that make it a different product, but in some cases a better product, and also in some cases not a better product.
Yeah, you lose
Even more is on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, there's always give and take with every medium. I mean, you talk about motion pictures. You don't have that opportunity for people to rest on an image or a thought or a page, or to go back to reread what someone said, or the internal monologue is mostly gone. That narrator is gone in the motion picture. It's just not popular. In the graphic novel, sequential art, comic book, you can't have all you can't throw in all the exposition. You can't, and then with prose, a novel, you can't have the images. So we really like the images, and so in scripting this, we spent a lot of time thinking about the visuals, and it's a great process for anybody who has not. If anybody's writing, and I have a hard time, because one of the most awful phrases in the human language, I think, is group project.
I got two going on right now.
If you can call it collaborative process, when you have professionals working together, and I use professionals loosely, because I mean, Rory and I don't have a deep resume. With our second issue, we've doubled our our work, but
it's a 100% increase.
Yeah, with a collaborative process with professionals, when you write a script, Roy and I send it back and forth. We edit. He tells me, "Scott, you're a moron. Who would write this? An idiot would write this." I cry.
You have monkeys with typewriters back there. What's going on?
It's, who's writing this? Did you give it to your 8-year-old? So we finally get a script that we like, and then we send it off. Finding an artist too. And again, anybody who's worked with this, I mean, just about, unless you're in the bullpen at Marvel or DC, you're doing this on your own pretty much. You're finding your artist. You're looking for a style you like. You're looking for making sure that artist can do sequential art and not just pinups. Making sure that artist communicates well, and then you send the script off, and you have to decide how involved of a script are we going to have. Is it going to be full script? How much how much can you handle me saying, character B is left-handed and he has a twitch, and he doesn't button his top button, and that sort of stuff? Or is there going to be a freedom for the artist? But once you get all that dialed in and you send a script off, and the script comes back, and you see your brain, right? Our imagination drawn. It's an amazing thing. It's amazing. And most of the times, every once in a while, we get a panel that's a dud, and we have to say, nope. But most of the time, we said angry, not disgruntled, and we get. But most of the work has come back, and it's fantastic. And it just, we need a little. We had nitpicky stuff, like we had a ship. This is way back. We had a ship with the sails are full, and the ships are going, but all the flags are flying backwards. This is like super nitpicky. It should be flying forward with the wind. But, you know, I'm reluctant to tell the artist, like, okay, I'm a neurotic lunatic. But those flags are going the wrong way. but if that's the worst of our problems, it's an amazing process. So any writer out there who can't draw like me, getting your imagination drawn for you is fantastic. It's really it's an amazing process. So yeah, I would love I still have this notion that I'd like to maybe expand the story into like a novel form, so we can dive deeper into feelings and thoughts and background, and but right now the comic book form is perfect, and we love it. And we get images like Dean Zachary's superhero guy here, kind of, you know, with the explosions and so forth. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah, and then obviously, I mean, that's a lot of inside baseball, and we'll eventually potentially maybe come back to that. But I do want to dive into the story a little bit, because there's a lot of stuff going on.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, pretty much, you know, we have Felix, who winds up getting information, either discovering it, stealing it, somehow obtaining it, just knowing it. And now he is being, I guess, solicited and brought into this war. And he's sort of, you know, the turning point, I think, and the key to at least, you know, the start of potentially turning back the British and making them sue for peace, for lack of a better word. And yet he's in a very complicated position because he's a civilian at this point. And so now there's a lot of questions going on with him. And so what is that like, to really develop a character who has a real choice to make, and a very complicated one?
First, I'll let Rory talk a little, because I talk a lot. Andrew, thank you. You have read our story, and you know, when people say stuff like that, like, it's like, oh my gosh, you read it, you're getting it. We've had a couple questions, like someone read it and they sent us a message, and they're like, is his dad just a hiney hole, or is he really torn? And we're like, the fact that you're asking it, I love it. But so Rory, writing these characters. Go ahead. Sorry, I talk too much.
Yes, my gosh. So Felix, being this young, impetuous youth, you know, thinks he knows better, thinks he's got the answer, thinks he can handle himself. You know, the classic, you know, young
punk
man,
kid, teenager,
punk. And so his own, you know, youthful pride kind of brings him into the fight as well. And we dropped an Easter egg in the first one about his brother being involved in the war in some way. So that just one line. So that could be playing into it. And then his father, and, you know, where's his father's allegiances? What's happening? So he feels involved already, and just with his natural ability to remember all these, you know, technical diagrams and machinations, like, he already feels compelled to help. And then when you pair him up with Franklin, you know, it just explodes again. That he's so young and so off the cuff, and just got that little bit of hubris to it. And that's part of the character that we want to build with him, that he'll have a little bit of a rise and then a fall. You know, it's just that beautiful story or character arc, I should say. That it's coming of age tale, if you will.
And making mistakes the whole time. I love stories.
Muck it up.
Yep, I love stories with compounding problems. I like when
anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah, when you think your hero is just about to succeed, gets his legs taken out from under him. We said we wanted to represent real history, and it wasn't cut and dry. It wasn't like England bad, America good. It was a lot of debate, and throwing off England meant turmoil for everybody. And so people had tough decisions to make. And so we wanted that to be real. We wanted his dad to be like, wait, is this good? I mean, that was a legitimate question at the time. That there was people question, are we making the right decision? So again, Andrew, thank you. I'm glad you saw that.
I think we should throw in another character named Murphy, and just like all these bad things happen to him.
Oh,
I think his leg is blown off.
So this is to even go further into this, because this is what I like, is that, and this is my whole problem with comics, and I'm very honest about it, is that there's no like this could really happen. When we look at Superman, nothing ever bad happens to Superman.
Yeah.
And we look at the last bad thing that's ever happened to a superhero was Scott Snyder's Batman. And it was, I think it was death of the family, not death in the family, I think it was. And it was when Batman was losing his entire family. And that whole thing with the Joker and that's really the last worst thing that's happened to a superhero in probably the last 15 years. And I think that's a real problem, because when I read stories, I want an escape, but I also want something relatable. And we all face, I guess, choices that have real consequences. And it's nice when you're reading a book where a character is gray and not black or white, for lack of a better word, meaning they're not definitive in what they want. And clearly Felix is having a lot of conflicts, and then it gets more complicated. And then now, there's also an element of growing up as well for Felix in this whole thing, where he's becoming an adult and realizing that, well, his choices have consequences. And that's what I like about this.
Right.
And then also I like history. So that helps.
Thank you. Yeah. We try to integrate real history, while also balancing, we don't want Felix to be flitting around the country at every important moment. We want him to be the character, the main
realistic
character.
timeline.
And we wanted to have a couple important people step into his life. We wanted deep characters. We wanted real conflict. And we also wanted real history. So we looked for a lot of opportunities where either history was vague, or an instance where, so-and-so was ill and wasn't at the battle of whatever. Because we didn't want to detract or take away from real people, just like having Ben Franklin tweak steam technology, not invent. Right. And so he saw, okay, there's this steam technology, which has really been around. I mean, since ancient times, they had these boiling water and steam moving things. So Franklin creates a boiler, and then much like the Model T, where they realized, farmer realized, if I run my engine like a PTO, it can be a pump or something else. I can put skis on my truck. We wanted the boiler to be the main kind of engine. Then from there, everybody gets clever. In the opening scene of Steam Patriots 1, the Howard Tavern has a boiler on it. We don't say why, but so William Howard Sr. decided our tavern needs a boiler, and we said maybe, Roy and I said it could run the lights, it could be a mill, it can be part of the brewing process. I don't know. But
we'll go with brewing process.
Brewing. So he needed it to grind the malts. I have no idea.
Yeah, let's even talk about this too, because you obviously touched upon and you answered sort of my half of my question that I was about to ask. Is obviously taking history that is familiar, and then also, not, I guess, tweaking it, but making it different, also taking references, also making it somewhat a little bit historical fiction to some degree, or taking historical licensing might be a better way to put it. And also with, making Ben Franklin still, but also making him your own, because that's the trick here, is that you don't want to go so far that it becomes a caricature of the American Revolution, but we're also now having steampunk technology, steam engine technology, and we're having a technology that really wasn't used at that time. That's a deciding factor in the war too. And so what is that? Like, that's a tricky arc to do.
Oh yeah,
Rory?
that's all you. No, that's a
that's
tough question. Tough questions go to you.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. We these are real people, Ben Franklin and George. You know, we don't want him to be some sort of Doc Brown kind of Marty, running around. We wanted him to be Ben Franklin. We wanted that to be a serious. So Felix is going to be integral. There will be pivotal moments where Felix is part of the war. So really, like I said, that's why we look for those opportunities where history is a little vague, which is tough because this is a very documented part of our history. There's
incredibly
you see this stack of books behind me. I've read every page of all these books. There's there's a lot of documentation. So we wanted Felix to show up. We didn't want him to change the outcome of a battle, but we wanted him to be part of that.
Yeah,
which opens the door for, we hope, this is just one of our altruistic hopes and dreams, that people get interested in real history because of that story. So our story opens with the Battle of Long Island, and then we have the Battle of White Plains coming up, and we're going to have the Great Fire of 1776,
the Great Conflagration,
and New York at 70, and then and like we said, if it keeps going, we would love. Oh my goodness,
we have so much. Oh,
if it could go
for a very long time,
and we would love to have one shots or a short or mini series or whatever for another character in another area of the Steam Patriots world. We've got another artist who's interested in drawing some stuff and kind of co-writing someone else's story. We would love that. And then keep it going through, Barbary Pirates, War of 1812. So
yes,
and we keep saying, if you're a millionaire patron out there who wants to just fund our story, we would love to keep going.
If you know an old rich widow with a bad cough, give her my number.
We want our story world to keep growing because we want people to get interested in history and have Steam Patriots be a fun, exciting part of it. Then and we would love, again, if we have the means to make it digital, make it a transmedia option where people can read Felix is doing this here in 1779, but what happened in real life, and compare and look at maps, and really Rory and I are just wanting more nerds like us who go crazy with this sort of stuff to just go crazy with it.
Yeah, so let's actually break this down a little bit, because from my understanding, and we're going to dive a little bit inside baseball, the comic, I think, is only 4 issues as it sits right now, or this part.
Yep.
At least the first arc. I don't know if you're going to do a second arc or if this is just one part of the story, as you were mentioning. And so what is that like to sort of start off small? Because this is one of the biggest problems I think people in comics have, is they want to get so much done. And I don't think they understand 2 or 3 things. Producing a book is hard.
Yeah, right.
And, both on a time level, on an economic level, writing.
Yep.
I mean, crowdfunding is hard. Let's not pretend I don't care if you get funded in the first day. It's is hard.
A
lot of work. Yeah, behind the stage, behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
So much.
I crowdfunded this show a while ago, and believe me, it was not fun. 31 days of hell. Not fun. Not fun.
Yep.
Not saying I won't come back to doing that, but it is a chore. And it is stressful to do this.
It sucks the energy out of you.
Yeah.
Not to mention that if you're doing indie, you can't produce a book every single month. Right. It's usually every 3 months on average, or every 4 months, or even every 6 months. And so I think that's what's kind of nice though about this too, is that it's only 4 issues and it's not going to drain my bank. Because when you have a 50-issue arc, that means I'm committed for at least 10 years, if not 15 years. And if every issue is $10, it's rather expensive after a while. And so what is that like? Because I think 4 issues is really perfect, because it's not a massive commitment for me on an economic level. And it's also not a time commitment.
Mhm.
we would love well, so Silverline is committed to this 4-issue arc, and it will come to a point where maybe hopefully the reader will feel comfortable, but with a closure. But what we would really like is to regularly keep the story going, and not necessarily have to crowdfund on the grand scope.
Yeah.
And so what Silverline does is nice. Is Silverline and Roland, they wait for the product to be done. So Steam Patriots 2 is done, and we're teamed up with Beyond the Stars #2, and it's done. All our fans are really doing is pre-ordering. So they're using Kickstarter as the distribution and the means to get it out there. So they're buying it. There's no speculation.
Yeah. Right.
So Rory and I would hope that once this 4-issue arc is done, we'll reassess with its popularity. How can we continue it? Do we keep it digital? Do we just do print on demand? That's something we'll have to think about, because we don't want our story to end, because we think Felix is awesome. The whole war can go through the 1780s, and keep it going. And we wanted to give it. We didn't want a huge expanded story, but we want to give each moment its due. We want Felix to grow. Mm-hmm. We want the readers to watch him develop and get older.
Well, and personally, I'd like to see more of the steampunk technology develop, because we're starting at such a rudimentary level. Like Scott would say, it's just a little bit more convenient than an actual horse. It's clunky, things break down, it's heavy, but as the story goes, the technology grows up with it as well. So it's a build.
Yep. So yeah, we would like to see our world keep going. And if that, I would like an adjustment. I don't want to have to keep like hardcore crowdfunding every issue. Yeah. But at this opening stage, we need to build our fan base, and we want people to fall in love with it and then look for the next. And if that, that ends up being our website or Amazon, or Silverline uses Kablam digital printing, that's all something to be reassessed. But yeah, you're right. It's a lot of effort, and readers, we've tried to impart that to people on the individual creator-owned level. We aren't writers in a bullpen with our script going down the hall to artists. And if our work takes a week-long or 2-week-long break, our artists might say, okay, I'll get back to you in 2 months because I have a backlog of work. Yeah. And we get it. Our artist needs to be paid. Our artist is going to work on the project that they have at that moment. They're not going to sit around and not get paid while Scott and Rory adjust their plot. Yeah, it's a
give and take.
Yeah, and it's a tough slog.
Let's actually talk about that, because it's very complicated. And I don't know if you know Tyler Carpenter.
No.
So Tyler Carpenter actually just did something crazy. He launched a secret campaign, and he funded it completely without anybody knowing who he was, no promotion, anything of that nature. And then he made a video explaining how Kickstarter's algorithm works, and it's variant-based, and it's a bunch of other stuff. And it's all those bad girl covers, and how Kickstarter's platform is the variants and all that stuff, and how you need to bring your audience and grow it outside of Kickstarter. And I like Tyler. I've known Tyler for a while. But that's where I think this is complicated, because I think Kickstarter is a very complicated place right now, where I think a bunch of projects aren't funding. I think there's a bunch of products outside. I mean, before we were speaking, I showed a product done by Comics Elite that legitly has slayed everything on Kickstarter in 3 minutes or less. No, it's the Princess Peach Shikari book, guys, in case you want to buy it. But you can't, because it's sold out.
It's gone.
I'm so sorry. It was too easy. It was too easy. But what is this like for you guys? Because this is I feel Kickstarter is kind of the Wild West again. And people say, oh, if you're not funding on Kickstarter, that's because you're the problem and you're not adjusting to the platform. But I also think the platform has changed dramatically. And so I'm very curious what it's like for you, because it is a very complicated, I guess, thing to navigate now, where a year and a half ago, Kickstarter was a hell of a lot easier to deal with.
I wish I had a better answer. Silverline does handle a lot of the behind the scenes with Kickstarter, but from my experience, my perspective, I feel like we're not getting the response that we did last time.
Right.
I feel like something. I don't know. I
feel that. Sorry to interrupt. Do you feel that you personally aren't getting the response, or everybody in comics is not getting the response? Because I feel that everybody in comics is having a hard time. I don't think it's a you problem. I think something is off, and I have my own theories on it. My theories are the following: is that things are more opened up, which means that people have less discretionary income. I think, people are going to the movies more. People are going outside. It's nicer out. People are going to restaurants. And also, I think money is leaving the economy. I think people are terrified about inflation or stagflation.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but there's also a bunch of really good products out there. And there's a bunch of dog shit out there, too. And you just ate a bunch of dog shit in comics, and you just spent $30 on a non-captivating story, not by anybody in particular. I'm not going to name names. You might say, you know what? Maybe I'll go to a trusted brand now that is going to deliver, and I don't want to take another risk. And so I think it's all of that. And I know Paul Gomez, Lori Caltatera, I want to say is her last name. I think that's how it's pronounced. There's been a few other people who are really struggling right now massively. And I would even consider this book is not exactly having an easy outing either. And I think it's all of that. And I don't think it's just that nobody's adjusting to the platform. I think the platform has changed. But I think there's a lot of outside things going on too.
Sure.
But that's just my thoughts as a spectator. And as somebody who is building an eBay business, buying and selling comics, I look at the market and I say, cool. And then the other thing is I'm a big Zenoscope and Merck publishing fan. And they're saying you're either with us completely and everybody else has to get cut out, or you're not going to be able to get what you want every single time. And I think that's also partaking in this industry. And I think it's going to kill the industry. I think that attitude is going to kill the industry. I really do.
The indie industry or the big name?
I think the industry completely, because if you go and you make it, hey, you have to basically become into our company 100%, and you can't play into anybody else. That means that the industry isn't growing. It means that money is being circulated into one area, and that's it. And that company is growing, but one company cannot grow the industry. We've seen this already in any sector, and that's just not even a comic problem. That's a business problem. You can't have Apple. You can't have Apple leading a whole revolutionary change. You need Apple, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, and all the big 4 or 5, whatever, tech companies to lead a massive shift. One company can't do it alone, and that's what I think is happening as well. But that's just my thoughts. It's a very controversial.
That's good insight.
Yeah, my thing is too, like, what I can't figure out who gets what attention, why, when, how, where on social media, on the crowdfunding platforms. I'm not saying these rumblings of shadow bans and so forth, and who gets promoted and who gets seen. It's a very weird thing. And yes, we had a great first day. Percentage wise, we're not, our ask is not very big. It's really to cover the art for the most part.
Shipping,
art and shipping is expensive. Those are numbers that we can't do anything with. But yeah, then things stalled out, and I don't know. We're doing all the what we think is the right,
Mhm.
the right thing with our social media posts and our
Giving updates and
occasional.
keeping it in front of people. You almost need like a data and analytics degree to follow.
I don't know.
I mean,
don't know.
they'll like Roland gave us or BJ gave us the metrics and all the stuff, and the charts and graphs and stuff. Like, no, that's great. What does that mean?
I don't know. It always seems like sometimes just a crapshoot. Also, I think if you're some sort of sexy lady or muscle guy, then you're guaranteed to succeed. But Rory and I are neither of those.
Hey.
I think it's very complicated. I deal with cosplayers all the time, and I hate to say this, but like, if you're a rather well-endowed cosplayer, very voluptuous, if you will, or what is, you get attention.
Yep.
And then it's the same problem. And then, I talk a lot about financial freedom. I get no attention yet. What I talk about is how to build a business and how to build self-perpetuity businesses, which is what I have. Nobody listens. And then, somebody will listen to a cosplayer talk about nothing. And then you ask the question, why in America, why we're broke? And and I stopped asking because I know the exact answer. And I gave a lecture a long time ago at a con, Comic Book Investing 101. And I had 20 people in there. I look at, the other 4 panels that wound up being sold out. There was no new information being presented.
Right. It's just
mind-boggling to me.
But the popcorn of how they're being fed. It's a bummer. I wish a quality, and I sound haughty when I say, I feel like we're quality. We have got well-developed characters and a great story world. Sometimes it just takes that right person sharing it, that right person finding it. I wish I don't know what else to do to get the word out there.
I think, unfortunately, I've come to this conclusion. I've been doing this for 10 years, and maybe this will help. Maybe this will provide insight. I don't know. Is that I stopped worrying about my views on YouTube. I stopped worrying about all of that. And I said, look, I'm just going to put out a quality product. And my goal is to have a huge library so that at some point I'm going to walk into a room and I'm going to have 5,000 interviews. And somebody's going to be like, you have 5,000 interviews. How did you get this? And how do I not know who you are?
Right.
And I've also come to the conclusion saying, what is, maybe this isn't the whole thing, and I'll make my money by selling comic books, baseball cards, and I will quietly become wealthy. And that's
perfect.
Too. And I've come to the conclusion though that, there's going to be a breaking point and a tipping point where all of a sudden it will tip over and somebody be like, dude, you have 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 interviews all over an hour. And how come I've never, ever heard of you or spoken to you? And we need to have a conversation. That's what I think has to happen.
That's smart. No, I think that's very smart.
I think what's going on is that I don't think enough people can hold on. Where I think that's part of the problem too, is that, and I make this argument about independent media, is that if you want independent media, you have to support independent media.
Yeah.
And then people say, great, I want an interview, and I've been seeing it a lot. And then I know 20 people who need interviews right now. And I'm like, but have you supported independent media? And they're like, no, I haven't. I'm like, exactly. and then that's where I think this gets so complicated, because I know people say, I want good comics and I want good stories, yet they don't support it. And then it becomes a vicious cycle.
Yeah, that's quite the astute observation. I think you're onto something there.
And I think it's just a matter of how long. Please.
Yeah, it's the same. Maybe the principle of if you don't shop local, you won't have any local shops, and you support those little bands that are coming to the bars and the pubs that, and so I don't know. It all seems so like I look at like the Marvel and Star Wars world, I feel like there's a fatigue. Why is that not translating into a boom for the indie world, or is it? And what are we missing? And there's variables. I feel like Rory and I are putting out a great product, quality product.
Yep.
We just need to be seen. We need to be found. We're just going to keep plugging away. We want to keep making a great story so that somebody finds it, somebody big, and they say, "Wow!" Just like you've done 5. Wow, you've got what years of chronological story, and during the Revolutionary War, this great developed story world, and it'll take off. I don't know. So we have a love for creating. We have a love for our characters. We have a love for the medium of sequential art and comic books. And if we can keep doing it, we'll be happy. And going into it, we're not deluding ourselves that we're gonna be rich, but we want our readers. We want to have a fan base of loyal readers that want the next story.
We all want that.
Yeah.
It's so tricky now. It's so tricky, and I hate to say it, but also what's happened, in my opinion, too, is that fan bases have been fractured.
Yeah.
Media collectively has been fractured. Where before streaming, you now have about 15 different streaming companies that you have to buy subscriptions for.
Yeah.
And that fractured media. Back 3 years ago, my viewership was much higher because there's less competition, there's less places to go, and there's less people doing it. And now everybody's viewership is down. It is rough. And I think it is so tricky to build an audience. And I also think it's building an authentic audience.
Yeah.
I think that's a really big thing. I'm going to mention 2 names of Patrick Bet-David from Valuetainment and Joe Rogan. And both those guys have authenticity attached to them. And I think it's a real issue. And I think that we're going to find out in comics in the next few years who's really authentic and who's not. Because when all this variant stuff wears out, and when all this, I guess, sugar and frosting wears out, I think we're going to find out who has a really good book and who has a bad book and whose book is okay. And I know people who do 30, 40,000 on Kickstarter and their book's average, but they have good variant work. And who's reading their book? I mean, I bought people's books just because of the cover, and I didn't even open it. and I run a business based on variants in a lot of ways. And so I completely understand that business model, and there's a lot of money to be made. There always will be. But I also think there's going to get to a point where people say, the variant's great, but I want the story too. And what the hell's this?
How many variants are too many variants? Because we've been doing, 3 for each now?
Usually 3, yeah.
That's not a good question to ask, because I know people who do a lot of variants.
Yeah.
I know people who have 50, 60 variants on Kickstarter.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Now, hear me out. They have the cover A. They have the cover A. They have their cover B is a riskier version of the cover A. Their cover C is a nude. Then their cover D is a version of that same cover. Then you get a metal, and then you get a hollow foil. And now you have 15 covers.
Yeah.
For each of them, you get to 60 very quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah, we're not going that deep. We want variant covers, and that's to get people the exclusive content on Kickstarter. That's to entice people to support it on Kickstarter rather than waiting for when they can just order it later. So man, that's expensive too. Artists aren't cheap.
No,
wish I could draw. Oh well.
I don't get how you have 60 covers or even 30 covers, and obviously because it's not just the art, it's also the printing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
every one of them.
People forget that even if your company's not charging out a plate fee to shift out for $25, you're still having to print a metal book. You're still having to print this. I mean,
Yeah.
if 4 people order a metal book, is it really worth the printing on it? And sure, you might be doing 30 grand, but how much money did you spend on art, printing,
Yeah.
shipping out, and how much money are you really making on this deal? And that's the other thing that I don't know and I don't get about this business is that margins are thin from my understanding.
Oh yeah. Printing and shipping, and then and artists, and if you're getting a good artist, they're worth it. I'm not complaining. I'm not begrudging them for charging what they charge.
Yeah, no
They
way.
have to make a living, and a good artist is worth every dime. So
I do think some of our covers would be amazing with the metal, like steampunk and a metal cover. It's like with the brass or copper. Oh yeah, can't go wrong.
It's so cool. And we shameless
Because
plug
Tommy,
here.
if you could print a wood grain,
Tommy, and he has a business partner. I'm flaking on his name, but Kablam Digital Printing. They do a great job. So that's a shameless plug for those guys. And then they have a metal.
We'll just send them an invoice.
Metal foil cover process. It's good stuff. So we would love to have our covers like that as well, which is going to be an option, I think. It's just I want to create, give people exclusive content like that. That's the point of these sort of shows. We give them little kernels of background information, because Rory's writing what's going on with Felix's brother.
Yeah.
He mentioned we give one line, one nod to his brother, and on a show like this we can kind of talk about that story is going to expand. That story is going to happen. We want to give people that content. So building a brand is very important. It's a lot of work, especially when it's a side gig, because you gotta have a day job, and then writing a story, giving the fan service, the good fan service, meaning we got fans out there who want to know who's Rory, or who's Rory writing about? Who's Rory?
Right. Yeah.
Who's Rory writing about? Who's Felix's brother? Who's what's Ben Franklin gonna do in issue 3, 4, 5, 7 or something like that? And we love it. It's just a lot of work. It's this labor of love.
That's the word. That's it. Labor of love.
There's equal parts labor and maybe a little more labor than love, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough. And when people say, and Tyler Gardner, I'm going to put him a little bit on blast. He says, well, if you think it's tough and you're struggling, I always say, you got to build your audience outside of Kickstarter. It's not the end all be all.
Yeah.
And he's right to a degree, but he's also not right where, you have to build an audience everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's tough and people are struggling, and it's not, maybe you're the problem is not the answer. It's a very cop-out answer in a lot of ways. Yeah. I think part of it is that people aren't adapting. I mean, I can tell you that I'm building out TikToks and YouTube Shorts for a reason, because they do bring in subscribers, without a doubt. It just takes a while to build that stuff out. I mean, I need to build out 100 days of that content. For me to find 100 pieces of an interview takes weeks, if not months. And it doesn't just happen. And also you want to get ahead so that while the first 100 are coming out, you can build the second 100. And then when the second 100 is coming out, you build the third 100 so that you're way ahead. And even micro content. And I think it's tough because, again, most people in comics, this is not their full job, as you stated.
Yeah, and promoting and just doing something on social media every day. Yikes. Yeah. So we appreciate our true fans. Don't
forget Silverline cons too.
Yeah.
That takes time to get there, and I think for the furthest ones we go was you're up in New York. I'm in Ohio. We went down to Florida for the Daytona Beach Comic Con. We go to Pittsburgh. We were teasing the idea of Philly. That might not happen.
Philly's
But-
a little spendy.
Yeah.
You have to figure out. You have to calculate how many books do I need to sell to break even.
Cover gas. Yeah.
Cover gas, cover a hotel room. Yeah, it's a lot of love. So to all the fans out there, understand. Give us understand. Give us your love. We and support. Yeah, support the artists you enjoy. And the big guys, I don't know, they're doing okay. They're they're okay.
We do pretty well at cons. I'd say.
Yeah. And I love it.
What 25 a day for each con.
I love interacting with people and being, handing them a comic and showing each page or something like that, and saying, this artist did this, and on this page this happened here, and having and saying, do you want it signed? And I've never had someone say no. I love it. Signing a comic and that's so cool. Yeah. Especially a young person too. Like I love cons when you can tell the parent is just there.
Yeah.
But kudos to moms and dads or grandmas and grandpas who take their their nerdy kid to a con. Good job. I want to hug you. And they're just there. They got their tote bag, and they get a comic. And we sign it. It's
my favorite is when people come in full costume like animals and they can't grab things. Yeah, they have somebody to grab things.
They have to have a handler. You have to hand it to the human, so the furry cosplayer, because they don't have, they can't really see what they're doing.
Yeah, no thumbs.
Yeah, cons are tons of fun. I love people. I love it.
I've been to a con in almost 4 years, and then the craziest part is I'm making more money not going to cons.
Not going.
and I don't have a product, and it was just COVID happened. I had a really bad experience at a con, and I haven't been back since. And I don't know if I'm ever going to go back.
Yeah, and you're doing okay. Yeah,
I'm doing better than okay. It's because I can get all my merchandise offline.
Yeah,
I can get it and I can sell it, and I can actually run my business more effectively.
Yeah.
And I've never sold at a con, and it's like I don't find it productive of my time.
Sure.
Like I don't even find that I get fans from it. I've never gotten a fan from a con. It's like the weirdest thing ever. Where and I'm a panelist, and I don't think it's appreciated. And it's a shame, because anybody who public speaks, whether it's on a podcast as a host or at a con or your conference or a Rotary Club or a Lions Club, it takes so much to public speak.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who hate doing this and would rather not do anything, and would rather do anything else but public speak.
That's when you got to lead into it. Do the things that other people don't like doing.
And it's just underappreciated by cons themselves, and it's underappreciated by fans, I feel. And you know what? It is what it is, and that's why I stopped doing it. Because after a while, every time I would say to a con, look, what can you do for me? And this is my 50th panel. I've been here for 6 years, and I'm doing 6 panels, and they don't even move. They wouldn't even offer me anything. I said, that's that. In which that somebody's actually working their ass for you, outperforming everybody who you're paying, and you're not going to throw me a bone. You're not even going to buy me a drink. You're not going to buy me a beer. I mean, a beer is what, $5 at a bar? Yeah. If you can't buy me a beer after I did 6 panels for you, we have a bigger problem. In society, we have a bigger problem. I mean, Otakon at least had a snack area for their panelists.
Cool.
Grab like a snack or a soda or something. Yeah. That was great, because guess what? It's exhausting to do that. In 5 or 6 panels at a con. You're not going to have time to grab something, or maybe you want a soda, or maybe you want a place to veg out and not be around people. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped going. I got no problem.
It's nice when Scott and I can go together, because one can man the booth, one can walk away for a bit.
Yeah. My wife comes to him with me sometimes, and I say, you got it? And she's like, Nope. And okay, well, I love you, honey. I'm gonna go take
Goodbye.
take a walk around. If anyone buys a comic, you just make sure you get their money. That's all. I don't care.
At some point, I will go back if I feel so inclined to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, at this point, I don't need to go, and I have
Come out to Buffalo or Philly. Take the train out.
Oh, we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's whatever. It's whatever. I don't know if I'm ever gonna go back. There's no good reason for me to go back.
Sure.
At this point, and I'm perfectly fine not going back. And you know what is? I'll be happy and it'll be nice, but I digress.
Yeah.
But anyway, enough about that. This is not about that issue. I'm sure I'm going to be on a bunch of podcasts talking about that. I've already been on a bunch of podcasts talking about that.
Yeah.
Boy, did I piss people off. You are still pissed off.
Good. Shake them up.
Oh my gosh, people are just furious at me still. My whole freaking Kickstarter for this show, agitated the hell out of so many people. Many people still are agitated. They all got a wake-up call. But I digress. I do actually want to talk about the rewards here a little bit. So obviously, I think this is issue 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Then we get into issue 2 here.
That
one, right?
Yep.
And then this one's not finalized, but I think this is the only one I have. So you're gonna have to deal with it, everybody.
Yeah. There are colors. I think that'll get updated. Yeah, soon. Yeah.
So there's those, and then there's the other side of this project, which is not you guys, which is Beyond the Stars issue 2. There's this one right here, and it is also will get updated.
Yeah.
And so what is that like to have obviously 3 different covers for yours, and then have a whole nother book and a whole nother creative team promoting their thing on here, while your book is also getting subsequent traffic? Because it's really smart to pair 2 books up together, and Silverline is known for this.
Yes, Silverline's been doing a great job.
Too many times, but that's all right.
What's that?
On this show too many times, so that's all right.
Oh.
I'm sorry, it's too easy.
There's a bunch of titles that Silverline's sitting on, trying to just get out there. There's so many great stories that Silverline has. So teaming them up, pairing them up, has been the tactic. And
there had to be some experimentation with it too.
Yeah.
What's the sweet spot? How many, like, there's 3 titles, 4 titles. Yeah, we're gonna back that back down to 2.
Yeah.
So that's the sweet spot.
And anybody, like we were saying a little while ago, running a crowdfunding campaign is a lot of work. You gotta promote it, you gotta update it, you gotta check messages, and you gotta everything, social media. So we are honored and a little lucky to get paired up with Ron Fortier and Beyond the Stars, because it's a second issue. We're a second issue. We think there's some crossover. Sci-fi fans are gonna like steampunk.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Ron Fortier is a prolific creator. He's got lots of books and comic books. He's got a great team, great art, great storytelling, and he's got a good following too with Airship 27. He's got his own thing separate from Silverline, but he's teamed up with Silverline for this story. So we're honored. Ron's a fantastic guy, and so that brings his team, his social media, his followers. Yeah. Their eyes on our story, and likewise ours on his. Mm-hmm. And we love the idea of cross promotion. We were just talking with guys that Flag Bearer Games created Nations and Cannons. Yeah, that's a Dungeons and Dragons Revolutionary War setting for the 5th edition D&D rules. And we will happily, I love talking up other projects. It's twofold. We talk them up. Hopefully they talk us up. We get their eyes on our project. But we're all trying to make it. We're all indie creators, which is why you're having us on your show, right? I mean, we want to talk about your show and you want to talk about what we've got going on. And because we want to see people succeed. We want to see this world of great stories. And
I hate to say this, but I don't know if everybody has that mentality in
no,
comics right now.
Oh gosh, no.
No, they don't. They don't. And because we reach out to some people and we get ghosted. You know, okay. I don't get it. I get Rory and I we're small fry. We're about as small fry as you get. But I would never. So I wrote we have a newsletter that Silverline sends out semi-regularly, depending upon who can create content. And I wrote a letter saying my newsletter was saying be the new guy, but likewise support the new guy. I never get it, and this has been since the dawn of time. But forums, remember, forums way back early internet, when people were, oh, this new guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I have a Chevy Astro van and I'm in a Facebook group. And when people say, oh, this new guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Come on, people, support each other. We all have a love for this.
There's only one community I've never seen that with: ham radio operators.
Okay. The ham
extremely
radio
welcoming.
Spread their love.
Yeah.
So
everyone else, it's like, man,
I don't get it. I don't get it when you've been in the industry for 50 years and you're a king of the industry. Give some love to the new guy.
It's so interesting where I have a theory on that too. So I'm fortunate that I've gotten to speak into people like Howard Cruz, who was the pioneer of the gay comics movement, Dennis Kitchen, Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, people like Paul Levitz, Tom DeFalco, Chuck Dixon. All of a sudden, those are some serious heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Shoot, I can't think of Trina's last name. But she's like a pioneer back in the days, been doing this for forever in comics and novels and a bunch of other stuff. But what I've learned is that, and also top voice actors, especially successful ones, they want to give back. Top wrestlers.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Anthony Green. The guy was August Gray in WWE. He's on the Indies. He's now in Japan. And what I find is that the guy wants to give back.
Yeah.
And I think when you're at that level, there's people who want to give back, and there's also a bunch of people who don't want to give a dime back. And it's so weird. And I've learned this on my Kickstarter. I mean, when I was asking for money for my show, the amount of shit that I got for it was so absurd. And my response—
Will they just message you out of the blue?
No, I mean, people were openly attacking me, and people still openly attack me. I got dunked on by another podcast just recently for 43 minutes straight. And my
easy to tear people down, huh?
Yeah.
My response is saying, but you run Kickstarters too for your project, and how is this any different? And you know what? Nobody's given me an answer yet.
Oh, imagine that.
Nobody's giving me an answer. They've circumvented the question, and that's what I don't get either. Is that
I'm actually
I think
shocked
that
that CC has more.
What?
Man, but that freaked me out.
Clicked on something. I don't know what I clicked on. So,
because it's all good. But anyway, my point is that
sorry.
I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy that there is such lack of support, and people say, "Oh, I'm supportive." I had somebody say, "I am more of the Tom community than you are." To me, in writing. And so it's like it's a weird environment we live in.
And I don't get how even local comic book shops, the one that we have our comic in is this wonderful Laughing Ogre Comics. They have a whole rack of local independent stuff like that. That it's good luck getting it into a store on your own.
I don't understand it, and
so you think you would promote the local stuff?
I want to try to be, and I'm a nobody, but I had
somebody to me.
Thank you, Rory.
Okay,
thank you. I had somebody reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I had some questions about how to submit, what to put together for the submission package of what is the publisher looking for, and I just gave them what I did. What have I learned? This is not a surefire way. This is just my experience. I don't understand it. And with anything, with anybody who has reached a level of, veteran status in their industry,
Yeah.
give the wisdom, give the love, give the wisdom. And I can even say, there's a selfish motive to promote somebody else, because I'm hoping their viewers, their fans will see us. It gives us content to promote. So I'm not always talking about myself. It's content. But share the love. We're all trying to do this. And if you make it, awesome. But you bring people along with you, and there's no reason to antagonize each other. And you mentioned Chuck Dixon. He's been awesome. He's spread the word. He gave us a great review, gave us some kind words. So thank you, Chuck. I know you're watching. And he gave us a great, some great, a little blurb to use. He's been a nice guy. Real great. He gave some feedback as well. So that was his time. So we appreciate it.
I don't get it, and I have a lot more to say, but
Yeah.
At some point, there's going to be a 3-hour rant of just straight up.
And another thing, yeah, yep.
I have my thoughts on it.
Yep.
And I experienced it firsthand, where everybody wants, and I'll just say it this way, and the nicest way I can say it is that what I found out is that everybody wants my time, but nobody wants to give anything for it. And when I asked for something, nobody showed the fuck up. And it changed the show. And it was a good thing. I'm very selective who's on my show. And, people have stopped soliciting me. And even when people solicit me, I'm like, great. Like, I have to ask 15 questions to you that I don't want to answer. And in seasons 1 and 2, I found out everybody wants to use my show, and they only hit me up when they need me. And I'm like, where were you when I was in the middle of hell? And I'm a very private person, but when I'm in a rough situation, it's on my Facebook status. It's not hard to know what's going on in my life. But again, I figured it out very quickly. And at this point, I can tell when somebody is a user versus actually genuine. It's not hard, and I'm pretty 9 times out of 10, I'm pretty good at it. So there you go. But I digress.
That's a useful skill.
Oh, it took me 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years to figure it out. 10 years. It's not like it was just intrinsic, But sometimes I'm wrong too. Sometimes I'm wrong. I mean, if I interview 200 people a year, I'm going to be wrong 20 times.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to be wrong on. And I just won some money, so that's good.
Awesome. Hey,
awesome.
Congratulations.
The Yankees won, guys.
All right.
So I'm very happy. It only took them 10 innings this time.
Yeah.
10 innings. It's just terrible. But I'm happy because that makes me feel better. It means I can bet tomorrow, but that's not the point. I'm terrible. But anyway, that's how I was looking at that. It's just making me nervous, guys, a little bit. I'm not even a Yankee fan. So there you go.
Just a capitalist.
Yeah.
I like this little thing called money, guys.
Right.
Sure. Oh yeah. I've heard of it.
It's useful.
But yeah, so I don't even know where I was going with this, but people are bad. This is the point. We should really go back to the Revolutionary War when it was a simpler time.
Yeah.
I like, was it College Humor? They did like the time travelers, like, let's go back to the revolution, and they go back like, oh, this smells terrible. History reeks.
It smells, yeah.
Open
but I digress. You got a bunch of books. You got 3 covers. I think you got a foil option. Obviously, I think we're at like the halfway point of
we're
bit.
Just this close. Man, if someone could tip
there.
us past the halfway point, that'd be awesome. We'd love it.
It's rough. It's rough.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's everybody. And I don't really know. I know way too many people's campaigns who should be doing better that are not. But I digress. That's a whole different conversation. But But I do want to slightly back out, and I do want to give both of you a chance to promote your book, because we spoke about a lot of stuff that will get you canceled for sure, and probably me, because that's how this show works now. And some people don't like it, and that's fine. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. That's the end of that discussion.
Right? It's so hard.
But yes, in all seriousness, though, where can people find the Kickstarter? Where can people check out what you guys do? Where can people check out your social media? Because even going after the Kickstarter, it is important to follow people on social media, interact with them, check out what they're doing, cons, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, we would love that. We are at Steam Patriots on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I use my personal LinkedIn account to promote my book, our book, and we're both Rory's in Ohio, I'm in Western New York, so cons, if they're driving distance, to the Northeast, we're trying, and if we can afford them. Silverline Comics, of course, as well, and then Kickstarter right now, Kickstarter.com right now. Search Steam Patriots, you'll find us. And we
watch the promo video in there.
Oh, it's a good one.
And let us know how we did.
We made a great video. There's another video going to be dropping here in the next few days. If one of us would get his back end and gear and edit that video, it'll be out there. We search Steam Patriots, and we're teamed up with Beyond the Stars. And like I said, we are honored to be teamed up with Ron Fortier and his great story. So follow it, like, share, subscribe. All those, the drill. Everybody knows the social media drill by now. They've got to have that figured out. So, and we happily, if you've read our book, send us a message. If you got a quote, you got a review, we'd love to hear it. And we love interacting with people.
Oh yeah, it was amazing getting our first fan email. It was like one singular email, like, "Hey, I saw you guys in Pittsburgh. When's the next one coming out?" I'm like, "Oh, somebody cared."
Yes.
Yeah.
Printed and framed and on the wall.
Yep.
Our fan mail.
And we'd love to be back on your show once we strike it rich, dirty, filthy rich.
We'll be here.
Well, that's assuming I come back for season 5. But anyway, I digress. Obviously, I'm going to keep saying it, and I'm going to say it again and again and again. If you like something, you need to support it. And what that really means is, if people have Kickstarters, you need to back their Kickstarter. You need to, especially when it's live and early on.
Oh yeah,
that's what makes it work, guys. That's one way how to support people and what they're doing and getting their projects funded. Also, if they're at a con, buying their book at a con if you missed the Kickstarter, or want another edition or something else they've worked on. Whether it's that book that's being Kickstarted or another book, it all goes to helping supporting what they're doing and keeping the lights on and continuing to get things done and push forward. Furthermore, if you're like, look, I'm not a history guy and this book doesn't fit my niche, you could still follow people on social media. And that is sometimes just as important in sharing out projects. Also, if you have a show and you want to interview people, that's very helpful as well, because sometimes that is just as valuable as money. Sometimes money is
eyes on.
Media can also be worth just as much, if not more sometimes. There's plenty of times where, a particular person can make or break and add credibility to a show or a project. So that's all extremely important to do. And support comes in many ways. Hell, an Instagram like or a Twitter makes a huge difference, and you never know what it can mean, or it could just be that somebody's having a really bad day and just a little heart on Instagram kind of can help shift it out. But I digress right there, and I'm going to promote myself because it is my show.
Please do.
Obviously, normally we would have it on the bottom, but we have 3 people on. So you can't see it, but you see part of it. You can see sort of one of it. It's all Pop Anime Comics. I think it's the lower right or left corner. I'm not exactly sure, but it's Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, as well as on YouTube. I really appreciate when people follow me and engage with me on social media, preferably on YouTube, because that's what I'm trying to grow, and it makes a huge difference when people subscribe so you don't miss any interviews that I've done. I think I have over 500 interviews now on YouTube, and I have a boatload of content coming, a boatload of shorts, a boatload of micro content from things that you might have missed, and really good content coming So please, if you like what I do, there's an interview for you on my YouTube channel. And I promise you that you will potentially you could get smarter. I can't say you will, and I can't make that promise, but I can promise you will be thoroughly entertained throughout the entirety of my YouTube channel in one way or another.
Awesome.
So, and then on top of that, I also have Buy Me a Coffee if you want to support independent media. I do have ad services, so those are up as well. And you could buy me you could buy my T-shirt making fun of Gundam and a bunch of other stuff, Taco Bell, and Most Interesting Man in the World, and Fallout. Because why not?
Yeah.
And on Redbubble in 16 different colors, and I need to sell 10 of them before I can release my next shirt idea. And I got it. It's gonna be fun, guys. So definitely check that out.
Awesome.
But that's everything I got. I know it's a lot, and yeah, that's everything I got. So I'm gonna give whoever wants it the final word.
No, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Andrew, thank you so
on.
much. Kickstarter, if go over there, if you could search Steam Patriots, we would love it if you grab our comic. Oh, and you can buy back issues. So if you missed issue 1,
sometimes it's a great thing with having add-ons during the Kickstarter. So if you miss one or you wanted another one that you didn't find before, it's all there.
Yeah, and we would love for our Steam Patriots world to grow and for our true fans to fall in love with it. So, Andrew, thank you for helping us spread the word.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Really appreciate it.
Well, I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody. And that is a wrap.
All right.